So week 1 of the NFL is in the books. Week 2 of college football is also done. And in today's video, I got to talk to you about all of it and then some. You listen to Dream Dropper Sports. Let's get it. So since it was opening week for the NFL, I feel like that's only right that I start there first. And in the first game up, we have the Dallas Cowboys going on the road to Philadelphia for a week 1 matchup on Thursday night. This game was marred by delays, marred by suspensions and kickouts early before we even had the first play be ran by Jalen Carter. But this game then proceeded to be an offensive display in the first half. You saw both of these teams battle back and forth. You immediately saw the absence of Jalen Carter playing his part in how the Philadelphia Eagles could not stop the Dallas Cowboys. Ultimately, Dallas had their way early and often, and there were no signs of them slowing down. I think the only thing that slowed them down throughout the game were their own mistakes, their own self-inflicted wounds. I think one of the biggest things that we saw from that Philadelphia defense was the cornerbacks. That secondary looks a lot different than last year's, and if I'm basing what I think this team can be based on what I saw in that first game, that didn't look like a team that can make it back to the Super Bowl. Not saying that they won't. I know Howie Roseman, he'll figure something out. He's gonna make trades. He's gonna find some type of way to circumvent every process that have known the man in the NFL to make sure he gets some talent in the room. But as of right now, if I'm rolling with the Dory Jackson and Quinyon Mitchell for 16 more games, I don't believe I can win. I don't believe I can win an NFC title. I don't believe I can win a Super Bowl. I damn near don't even believe you can win the NFC East with how they play. Now guys get better as the season goes along, but that just doesn't feel like a team, or doesn't feel like a unit right now that can win you anything, at least in the back end. And again, you then immediately saw the impact of Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter being one of the best young players that we have in the game, but scratch that, he's one of the best defensive players in the game, period. His impact was felt. You talk about a guy that can create pressure, that can also stop the run. You talk about a guy that really can do just about any and everything he wants to on that defensive front, and him not being there paid huge. It was a huge loss for Philadelphia. I mean, I think, and we all knew that it would be. Now, the one thing I was very impressed with in this game was Jalen Hurts. Now, you would say his numbers don't scream out anything spectacular. He didn't do anything. Threw for 150 yards, ran for about 60. He didn't do anything crazy. But when I watched that game, I watched a guy that understood what the defense was doing, took what the defense gave, and also when it called for it, used his rushing ability to keep drives alive and keep them on a scoring pace. So those things were critical, and those things don't necessarily show up in the stat sheet. That's the different ways Jalen Hurts can win football games, which is what makes him a top 10 quarterback. See how I gave y'all boys some love right there? But yeah, absolutely. But then again, I look on the flip side with Dak Prescott. I thought Dak Prescott played a great game. He is one of those quarterbacks where it's like, I know he gets a lot of slander. I know everybody it's fun to poke fun of the Dallas Cowboys. I guess it's what we do as a football fandom in general. Like, we don't care who's over there. We're going to poke fun. And Dak Prescott has been an easy target because they haven't won anything substantial with him being a starting quarterback, even though they've had some teams that we all thought probably should have made some deeper runs in the playoffs. Dak Prescott played a great game, in my opinion. I thought that, he delivered the ball as well as you could, gave CeeDee Lamb some chances, and CeeDee Lamb, brother, you need to come to the altar here. You blew that. I know we don't like to say that one player can't lose you a game, but when my $100+ million receiver is not doing the things that we are paying him to do, which is simply catch the football, you gotta be held accountable for that. You gotta be held to the fire for that. Do I think CeeDee Lamb will be better throughout the rest of the season? Of course. He's one of the top 5 best receivers that we have in our game. But in that instance, with a chance to win a divisional game to start the season off, that's a huge loss. It is a huge loss because you're a Dallas team that traded away their best defensive player, maybe their best player overall in Michael Parsons. You had an opportunity to get a huge win on the road against the defending champs to start your season off and also give you a game, put you a game ahead in the division title race. These were all things that are very important, and in the NFL, every game matters. You'll look back on this game. If Dallas is competing for the NFC East, or if they're vying for a playoff spot, you'll look back at that game and say, damn, if they don't make the playoffs, you'll look back at those CD Lamb drops. If they don't win the division and they're out of it by like a game, you're going to look back at that game and say, damn, those CD Lamb's drops. That's the reality of it. Now, he has a whole season to get back into shape, to round back into form. I think he and George Pickens will be a dynamic duo as a receiving group. Dallas, though, I don't know where I think they can go without Micah Parsons. You don't have far to go when you can't get stops. And for a defense, they look like they could do nothing right. They couldn't get pressure, couldn't make tackles. I mean, you really couldn't do anything necessarily. I mean, so I don't know, man. It's TBD with that Dallas team. I would think they're around a 9 or 8 win team. I just don't believe you can survive and win 10 plus games with a defense like that. I don't know. I don't really think that will get better. Like that as a Raku from Boston College, he's young. Of course, he'll get better as the season goes along. But unless you think he's gonna become the next great player that Michael Parsons was, then I don't believe you have much of anything to look forward to in Dallas, at least on the defensive side of the rock. And next up for me is the Ravens versus the Bills. These are just games that obviously stood out to me, and these are games that nationally we all got to watch. That game was a perfect example of why John Harbaugh should be fired. This has been coming for a long time, and the Ravens have kicked the can down the road. I guess nobody takes this thought serious because the Ravens are always in the playoffs. The Ravens are always competing for an AFC title, for a chance to go to the Super Bowl. Like they're always winning their division. Like they have Lamar Jackson, a multi-time MVP. Why would they be getting rid of a head coach? Because those philosophies are bone dry. Whatever it is that he has done in that locker room, it does not lead to them being able to finish games. I think a lot of times Lamar Jackson has added a lot of years on to John Harbaugh's career. Lamar's been in the league since 2018 now. It's 2025. Yeah, he's added about 7-8 years onto that man's career. For sure. And how I know this is because what other coach do you know could blow multiple multi-touchdown leads and still have a job? Like, these are some of the worst meltdowns you can see. And they're not all against playoff teams like Buffalo. They're against pretenders, non-contenders, all that. I've seen it against Indianapolis. I've seen it against, I think the Raiders got one on them. We've seen this story before, and we also seen it when we get to the playoffs. So much so to the point where I have zero belief in the Baltimore Ravens at any point in time once the playoff starts. Once we get past the wild card round, divisional, conference championship, damn, a Super Bowl, you ain't even close to sniffing that with how you play in these games. They're nowhere near it, and I don't think that they're gonna find their way all of a sudden with John Harbaugh at the helm. It's time to move on. When you don't make it this year, and I'm gonna just go ahead and say it because I can't keep getting fooled. I love Lamar Jackson. I am a big fan of the Baltimore Ravens and their brand of football. I've been wanting to see this team take that leap. But if we're going to be completely honest, they're not going to. Not with that man as head coach. We've seen it too many times. There have been too many blunders for anyone to have faith. And I feel for those fans. This is a great team. This is a pantheon great quarterback. Lamar Jackson is one Super Bowl trophy away from being considered one of the greatest of all time. We're not talking about just in his era. We're talking about all time. If Lamar Jackson can get there. I know it's week one. I know it may be a bit of an overreaction But I continue to look at John Harbaugh's side of the ball. And I keep wondering, why do we not have, why do they not have a pass rush? They don't have a single soul that can get to Josh Allen. They don't have a single soul that can consistently pressure the quarterback. If you don't have an edge rusher that you can designate and say, hey, dog, go get the quarterback, then you don't have a shot. You need a guy on that defensive front that can just say, I'm going to go get it. It's my time. It's that time of the game. I need to go make a play. And that doesn't exist in Baltimore right now. You have a secondary. Jair Alexander. Let me tell you something, brother. You come to the altar, brother. You got broken down by Josh Palmer like a lawn chair. And I just want you to know, if there ain't nobody else going to tell you, brother, that is unforgivable. Under no circumstance should Josh Palmer be doing you this way. Multiple times now, mind you. He head tapped you one time, and then you got beat and you start God, dear God, man. You did nothing to help yourself and help this team. You're the signing that people love. And it was much more of the same for me. I think there's only one position that the Ravens can sign that can make me believe they can be a Super Bowl contender. That's getting an elite edge rusher. That's what that's going to end up being. Is getting an elite edge rusher that can consistently apply pressure to quarterbacks. Now, on the flip side, Josh Allen. Josh Allen, brother, you showed everyone why you deserved that MVP last year. And my brother Ace, who obviously I'm not recording with this time, I think that brother seen the light. For anyone that wasn't familiar, that hadn't seen the light, I hope you did. Because I watched Josh Allen consistently elevate a group that I don't think anyone believes is a top end receiver group in the NFL. Now I give him James Cook. James Cook is, the boys like that. And he earned every single bit of his money in that game. Made some big plays. But Josh Allen, to me, has his growth. The thing about Josh Allen that's always mesmerizing is that at one point he was the worst quarterback in the NFL. You can go back to his first 2 seasons. He was the worst quarterback in the NFL. Dead serious, no joke. It was laughably bad. And his growth from that point forward, he's the reason. Josh Allen alone is the reason why guys like Anthony Richardson can still get picked in the top 10 in the NFL draft. Why people still believe they can mold a guy into whatever they want him to be once they get to the league. Josh Allen's the reason why people think that, because of how bad he was and where his traits were and how he transformed his throwing motion and everything that followed suit. He's the reason why people believe in guys like Anthony Richardson. And he's done the league a hell of a disservice because, damn it, boy, can't nobody else make that jump. Can't nobody else make it. It's not a realistic jump for a guy to make. Some guys are just one of ones, and I think Josh Allen is a one of one and should be respected as such. He is one of the very, very few guys we have in this game that could continuously work and get better, and they all work out. You know what I'm saying? And you talk about a guy that looked like all-time bust potential to now potential all-time great with how he's performed. Kudos to Buffalo. Great win. I don't know what it spells for them during the season. I'll say this. The AFC is wide open. I don't feel like there is there are teams that we think can get it done this year. Now, obviously in the NFC, we think Philly. But in the AFC, you would say Kansas City, but there are so many questions and they keep losing receivers and they don't have a great group in there right now. You don't have anything. You lost Xavier Worthy in that first game. Rashee Rice is also suspended. So you don't have. So you're walking around with Tyquan Thornton and Juju Smith-Schuster in Kansas City right now. And I look at that division in the AFC West, and I look at the Los Angeles Chargers, and I say, oh damn, They got Jim Harbaugh. See, this is the Harbaugh I like. This is the one that's really my guy. You know what I'm saying? Because I know, is going to implement he's going to implement the culture, and he's going to implement a level of toughness that you saw that team play with last year. But the more and more he gets into, like, when that team becomes 1-1 with him, and that really becomes his team, they're gonna bully through Kansas City at a point. Like, Kansas City's been able to get by right now because I don't think any coach in that division has had a good enough coach to be able to stand toe to toe with Andy Reid. But if there's any coach that can do it, it's Jim Harbaugh, because I think Jim Harbaugh is one of the greatest coaches of all time across all levels, because he's done it in college. He's gotten to a bowl in the pros. You know what I'm saying? One of the few guys that we've seen do that. Only other guy like that I can think of off the top of my head is Pete Carroll. If there's more, feel free to let me know in the comments. But yeah, that clock is ticking on Kansas City in terms of being the top dog. Pat Mahomes is still Pat Mahomes, but that team is, you have an aging tight end and Travis Kelce, and truth be told, your tight ends, he's 1 foot out the door. He's already stepped into his celebrity life, his celebrity afterlife once football is done. So I think the ship is sailed with him. You don't have a number one receiver. Even when you got all your guys there, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, those are not number one receivers. Xavier Worthy, until proven otherwise, is more than I think is more so of a gadget guy, but you kind of hope that he could be in the mold of like a Jameson Williams and work his way up into a legitimate receiver role. But until then, this is TBD. But now you got to hope that he can get back healthy. Rashee Rice, well, once he stops, running people off the interstate, we could probably get a better grasp of who he is. But I don't think that's a wide receiver one either. I think that's also a solid receiver that only really works with this quarterback and this head coach. I don't know if that works. I don't know if this is like legitimate wide receiver one potential. I don't see wide receiver one in Rashee Rice. I see most places that's wide receiver 2 to 3 in my mind, right? So Kansas City's in a weird spot. I feel great about the Chargers after their week 1 win. I think it's seeing them build on top of it. I know Harbaugh is going to make sure that his team's going to have a ground game. They're going to be able to play balance. They have a quarterback that's got all world talent. Now it's all about, can we put it together? Now, I'm not talking about Justin Herbert as if he's like this young aspiring quarterback that has so much potential. Like, he is what he is at this point. But I think there's any coach that can take a quarterback to that next level by ways of him building the team, then it's definitely Jim, right? When you look at what he did with Alex Smith, you look at what he did with Colin Kaepernick. Like, these are quarterbacks that I don't believe do the things that they do without him at the helm. So the Chargers are in a great position right now, and they are right there knocking at the door of the Kansas City Chiefs, and started their season off with the same kind of victory that Dallas could have had. A big divisional win that will pay dividends as we move along throughout the season. So, kudos to those boys. As far as anything else, I gotta talk about my Carolina Panthers, y'all. Y'all know why we're here. The Carolina Panthers start off their season to a very common start here in Charlotte. A 26-10 loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars. That game was about as embarrassing as they come. Now, what I will say for the Panthers fandom, this wasn't as bad as you may think. And I say that only because of the turnovers that you had. You had 3 turnovers total. 2 that led to points. You gave up a total of 10 points off turnovers. You lost that game 26-10. So you can see how those turnovers played a factor. And one of those turnovers came on a potential scoring drive. So you see where those things kind of come into play at. The reason why I say this, I wouldn't be as worried about this team as I was last year or even the year before, is because I believe Bryce Young has learned from mistakes. And I believe in that game, you did see instances where I'm like, a younger Bryce would have not handled that as well. Would have not handled the pressure as well. Would have made the wrong read. Like he would have made more mistakes on top of the ones that he already made. Now, now was it great? Absolutely not. And those mistakes, the interception and the fumble, you have to be held accountable for. The interception, we can start here. On that crosser, Xavier Leggett got to work back to the quarterback, make it more friendly for the quarterback to be able to throw that ball. Bryce also does need to be able to see the safety lurking and breaking on that pass. Two things can be true here. Both of those guys got to step up. Ultimately, our defense is still marred by the same demons that haunted us last year. Not being able to stop the running game. Now, Turk Warden, who suffered a hamstring injury in that game, showed flashes. He showed real flashes against the run and what he can be for this team moving forward. Unfortunately, he will be sidelined for at least 4 weeks with a hamstring injury. So, you can't really get better when you're on the sideline. Also, this team dearly missed Jalen Coker. Not having, I think, that next option after Teteroa McMillan, who also had a great game today. Great game on Sunday. Not having that second option makes it really tough for you to find any type of flow to your offense, dog. And for Xavier Leggett, right? Second-year receiver, had an up-and-down rookie season. I really wanted to see you take a step forward. I really wanted to see you take command and, take advantage of those opportunities. You had chances. There's a catch on the sideline. It's a corner route towards the right sideline that you got to make a routine catch and drag the toe. Drag the foot. That's a catch. That's a first down. You're in the red zone. I don't know if you're in the red zone or you're neighboring the red zone at that point if you make that catch. And you don't make it happen. And it's clear as day should be a catch. This is a routine play. This is not a overly difficult play to make. And again, the routine stuff has to, at some point, to look like it's routine for our guys. Because at some point, but it can't be any easier for you. Jatavion Sanders, also, brother, it's in your midst. You got to bring those in. You got to help your quarterback out. It's a lot of Bryce, I thought, made plays. I thought Bryce did what he could. I thought Bryce also still made mistakes. But ultimately, I thought Bryce overall played well and showed me way better signs to start this season than he did last season. So that's where I'm at with it, right? But ultimately, the guys around have to elevate, have to step up. Then I get to T-Mac, Teteroa McMillan, the number 8 overall pick that I doubted when we were going through our draft process. I have no more doubts. Brother, that man showed you every single bit of why he was the best receiver in his class. Better than Travis Hunter that was on the other side. He's a legitimate receiver, and he's got legitimate wide receiver 1 potential. That is your wide receiver 1. Easily, the game lock, it came easy to him. It flowed easy to him. It didn't look too fast for him. I saw him make play. I just saw him just do simple things, right? There was a play in the preseason against Cleveland where, man, he was on an end breaking. I'm pretty sure it was a slant. It was a slant in the red zone, and he didn't get his head turned around quick enough when Bryce delivered the ball. Bryce put it right there on the money, timed it up. You know what I'm saying, throwing that thing with anticipation, and he wasn't ready. And the first thing that he does, he gives his thumbs up, passes his chest. He let no one that was on him. I see him make that very same play in that game against Jacksonville. That's showing me a guy that's picking it up quickly and is not making the same mistakes twice. He's still learning this game, of course, to play at this level, but he does have all the potential that everyone said he had. He does have AJ Green-esque potential. He does have Mike Evans-esque potential, which is a wide receiver 1 for a decade in our game. So, yeah, I'm happy with what I saw there. But then I look to the other side, man. I look to my other side. I look to the defense. I look at Ejiro Evero, and ultimately, I always ask myself, hey, why did we keep the defensive coordinator, that coach, the worst? I'm saying this in my humble opinion, but even the stats back it up. The 2024 Panthers defense is probably the worst defense I've ever seen fielded. And I'm saying worse than our 2-14 defense in 2010. I'm saying worse than that. He fielded one of the worst defenses of all time, retains his job, and has full autonomy to do what he wants to with that side of the ball, as if Him having full autonomy, doing what he wants to do at the side of the ball, has worked out for us in the past. I am perturbed. I am distraught. I am uneasy because I'm watching a defense that is starting Nick Scott at safety when my rookie safety, Lathan Ransom, showed me potential of a guy that will come down and smack some, crack some. You know what I'm saying? I have no patience for old guys that can't get the job done. Nick Scott, to me, is clearly a special. That's a special teamer to me. That is not starting safety for a good defense. He can be a starting safety, but not for a good one. I would much rather see guys like Nick Scotton get burned. I would rather see guys like Princely, Uman Mielen get burned instead of watching guys like Pat Jones. Now, Pat Jones also tweaked his ankle, but I think more than likely he's going to be ready for this Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals. But I'd rather watch my young guys. I'd rather have them figure it out on the fly. I'd rather have them make the mistakes. And I understand that Vero is a guy that's fighting for his job, fighting for his football livelihood. I do understand that. That is why you don't keep coaches on the staff that don't have the same vision as you. They don't have the same, like their goals do not align. They do not. Make no question about it. Dave Canales' goals and Gerald Vero's goals do not align here on Mint Street. So we're going to have a clashing of ideals of what we want to happen. You saw Dave Canales speak on the presser. He would like to see young guys get more burn. Guess who ain't going to give him more burn? The guy that's fighting for his job. He's going to go with the vets in hopes that they'll get it done for him. I think your best chances are to roll with these young guys. I don't think Evero wants to be here anyway. I think he's been here too long. I don't think he expected to be here this long, considering the stat that he came in with. I know for a fact he did not expect to still be here in 2025. But brother, here we are. And we, as a Panther fandom, want to see legitimate defense get played. I need you to do something about that. Simple and plain. There's potential there. We beefed up the front. We did things in order to help. Probably starting Christian Roseboom and Trevin Wallace won't help those things at all. Deciding that Christian Roseboom and Trevin Wallace, and at the time Josie Jewell, were good enough backers to go into a season with to play 17 games is certainly a choice. It's a choice that we're going to see. We're going to see this choice kick us in the ass for 16 more games. So, when there were opportunities to go with guys like Ernest Jones, who didn't go for much on the trade market, Jermaine Pratt, who were also available. Guys that you could have gone after. Dan Morgan, former middle linebacker of the Carolina Panthers. Dan Morgan. Yeah, but, is what it is, I guess. Hopefully this team gets better. I do think they improve at some point. I don't think we have to wait a month into the season for this team to improve. I don't know if it starts this week. I will tell you this, though. My record prediction that had 9-8 on the table, back to 5-12. So let's go ahead and get it out of the way. I apologize. I made mistakes. Until this team shows me otherwise, I have no reason to believe they can win an NFL game 9 different times this year. So, with that being said, we move on to the college side. Now, on the college side, look, I got to talk about the boys that I'm rocking right now and just go ahead and get this out of the way. You had a very piss-poor performance against South Carolina State. It left a lot of fans uneasy. Rightfully so. Some of the issues that transpired in week 1 that we glossed over because we thought we were playing a solid opponent. And I do still think Virginia Tech is a solid team. They carried over into week 2 against South Carolina State. Now, I do understand there was a delay. The game got pushed back nearly 2 hours. I don't care. Stay locked in. I understand. We're talking about 18 to 23-year-olds. Keeping those guys locked in is tough. But if we're talking as if we have playoff aspirations, we're talking as if we have a quarterback that can legitimately win the Heisman, then there are expectations put on you from that point forward. Do you want the expectations or not? What I will say is other teams in the SEC struggle with their cupcake opponents this past weekend. LSU with Louisiana Tech, Georgia with Austin Peay. Those two games were very similar, at least in the scoreboard, because God knows I didn't watch either of those games. Though they were similar to our performance against South Carolina State. What was not similar is that the fact that our offense only scored 17 points. And the reality is, since Mike Shula has taken over the play calling duties, his offenses have only scored 17 points in his 3 games as the OC. That is a problem. I need him to do something to revitalize this group, get it going. There is potential for more explosive plays. I think Lenore Sellers also has part to play as to why we haven't connected on some of those plays. So I think it's a whole team effort, not just one thing. The offensive line, as stated by Casey Henry during his presser this week, have been having communication issues. I need you to get that together. Because you played in Atlanta, Georgia, where it was mostly South Carolina fans, and trust me, I know, I was in attendance. And you played at home where there were all South Carolina fans. At what point can you get it together? Because we go on the road to Missouri next week. You go on the road to LSU very soon. Will you have it together? Will you have it together? Who do you want to be as a team? Because the reason why I'm perturbed by the performance is because I know other teams struggle, but at a point to do something you've never done, you have to be who you've never been before. And that's a team that starts out fast. That's a team that starts out executing properly. These are things that can help make you a champion. But if you don't want to reach that status, you don't want to reach that pedestal, then so be it. Continue to start slow. Continue to have these nasty games, even though you're more talented than the team across from you. Continue to do so. And we'll continue to be an 8-4, 9-3 team at best and celebrating getting to the Citrus Bowl. That's what we'll be. But if you want to change that, it's a perfect time to do so right now. I would love to see this team bounce back. I would love to see this offense find some type of a rhythm. We have to find a wide receiver that can be the bona fide number one. As much as people love Nick Harbor, and I do as well, and I love the work that he put in over the summer, Nick Harbor is still ways away from being a wide receiver one for anyone, much less in the NFL. So let's hush the noise on that. Mazio Bennett, I need to see something. And that's why I look to my OC. Can we do something to get him involved? Can we get something dialed up for him? Guys don't all of a sudden regress. You know what I'm saying? I think it has a lot more to do with coaching than anything else. Because this guy's a true freshman, had impact on games. Through the first 2 games so far this year, I haven't seen that. And your first 2 opponents this year were not good enough for me not to have seen Mazio Bennett make a play. Shout out to Van Jacobs this past weekend. He showed up. He got some work in. You know what I'm saying? He showed me something. But I don't believe you're going to be able to win the SEC or compete in the SEC if you're relying on Brian Rowe and Donovan Murph. Now, I love Donovan Murph. I love Brian Rowe as well. If we're serious about competing this year, my veterans have to step up. I have to see Van Jacobs. I have to see Mazio Bennett. I need to see more of Jared Brown. That's going to be the way for you to actually compete. Because how all of a sudden do we go from a receiving core that didn't change, guys that came back, and we don't see these same guys making having an impact right now? That's a problem. That's a problem. And I'm gonna look at the coaching first. I'm gonna look there first. How are we utilizing these guys? What can we do to manufacture more touches for these guys? You're going to do something because Vandy's coming with it. Diego Pavia is confident that Vandy team just beat a Virginia Tech team that we had to go the full length of the fight against. They were down 20-10.5, and Vandy came back and won that 44-20. They're a team that's coming in with confidence for sure, and they want all the smoke in Columbia. So I ask Shane Beamer, what are you going to do about that? What is Dylan Stewart going to do about that? What is his offense going to do about that? They very much believe they can come into your crib and get one. I hope you took it personally. That's all I can say. Now we can as we keep moving on through. Big upsets also happened this week over the past weekend. USF, University of South Florida, goes on the road to the Swamp, get a win in Florida. Big time win. Second big time win for USF, by the way. You beat a playoff team from last season in Boise State at home, dominated those boys. Go on the road to beat Florida in the Swamp. Y'all are looking right in the face of a playoff berth. Everything is right there in front of you. I am eager to see how those guys continue on their path throughout the season. You know what I'm saying? Great stuff. Billy Napier, Florida Gators. A lot of questions. Looking at DJ Lagway. He's a guy that everybody touted as one of the best quarterbacks coming back into the game. He's young, true sophomore. Everybody knows him. Everybody loves what he can bring to the table. But I'd be remiss if I didn't hold him to the same standard that I hold everybody else to. Hey, look, you have to be better. If you are the 5-star, if you are everything who people are touted you to be, then that game can't happen there. Billy Napier, dog, that game can't happen there. Not at that university. Real questions to be answered down in the Swamp. Real questions to be answered, and they got a tough slate of games ahead. It does not get easier for them. If there's any year where I can see Billy Napier being out of there, it's going to be this year. Because aside from a late season push last year, you were damn near dead in the water. I don't know if you would have made it through this year. There isn't much of a break for you in this. You're going to have to beat some good teams. You can look at it one or two ways. Either you can look at it as, damn, we got to play a lot of good teams. Or you look at his opportunity to go beat a lot of good teams. So it's one of the two. But using the USF is tough. I think they get it together, but I don't think they get it together enough to be able to put together a record that people will be happy with there in Florida. So, we'll leave that. We'll leave that to those boys down there. As far as other college games, there really wasn't a whole lot going on. Michigan versus Oklahoma on the road in Norman. Brent Venables, that team is starting to take and mirror the image of their head coach. They're playing fast. They're playing physical. John Mateer is a guy that is now, piquing the interest of NFL scouts. Down look at Michigan on the other side. Bryce Underwood, very young, and it's tough to ask a true freshman to go in there when you're that kind of game. That's a game where you figure out like, oh yeah, you're good, but you ain't that good. You ain't that damn good yet. You know what I'm saying? You definitely can be, but Michigan going to that environment with a young quarterback, limited chances there to really get that one done. Huge win for Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a team that I would not sleep on in the SEC. They're going to be a team that can punch you. They can give you a gut punch, and I think they're going to continue to bring it. That's truly what I think. I think this team has a level of moxie to it that does pique my interest, and they have to come to Columbia this year. We will see. I got faith in the Brent Venables defense to be able to put it together against some of the best. So against a freshman quarterback, that was to be expected for sure. God, I gotta think. I don't know if there's anything else that necessarily stood out from last weekend, man. Oh, I ain't forget about y'all there in the upstate. The boys in Pickens. Did not forget about y'all. Clemson gets a victory over Troy University, and I'm here to say that I gotta apologize to Kate Clemson. I gotta apologize because while I think that you may have been a tad bit overrated, I gotta look at who's coaching you, who's bringing you along, who's developing you. I gotta look at Garrett Riley. I gotta ask, do I really believe this coach can get the best out of this player? And that's a hell no. Absolutely not. He's not showing it to this point at Clemson that he can help bring a guy up to the level, up to the standard. That's the truth. Do I think there are things Cade is not doing, not seeing? Yeah, I do believe so. I believe Clemson, once they start to commit to the run, you start to see more things open up down the field. That's going to be what they have to do. You're going to have to truly commit to the run. Adam Randall is a receiver transitioning into running back. He needs as many touches and as many opportunities to carry the rock as possible. You have to, if you're going to get through this season, he's going to have to be able to carry the rock. You're going to have to be able to trust him to do so. You're going to have to be able to trust that offensive line as well, who have still showed, signs of just not being there as a unit in the first two games, but that's a unit also has to grow. So right now for Clemson, everything's still in front of you because you won. You lost the season opener, but because of your schedule, you should be able to manufacture, some more wins. They go on the road to Georgia Tech this weekend, noon kickoff. I hope Brent Key has that group ready, because this could spell for a big jump start for Clemson if they go get a dominant win in Atlanta. Also could be a huge win for Georgia Tech. Start out 3-0, get a win over a bona fide opponent there in your conference. You got a chance to go compete for that thing long term. Real deal. Florida State looked impressive again for another week in a row. They play East Texas A&M, but when you play a directional school, you point them in the direction of that scoreboard and show them an ass whooping. That's what you're supposed to do. And that's what Florida State did. They bounced. They definitely followed up after a huge win against Alabama. That's how you follow up. Even if you are playing a lesser opponent, coming out and leaving no doubt that we can execute, we have the talent, and we're focused. Like, coming out that way against that opponent is how you build upon what you did in week one. That's how you get to jump up in the rankings too. Because you peep where they're at. That's how you get to jump up in the rankings. That's how you make people believe. Is by dominating the teams you're supposed to dominate. To go get something done that you haven't done in quite some time. So yeah. Shout out to Florida State. But that being said, big games coming up this weekend. South Carolina versus Vandy, of course, is the one I'm looking forward to. My school. So you know where I'm at with that. I believe South Carolina still wins. I believe the offense finds a rhythm. They have no choice but to. I believe the offense finds a rhythm, and I believe the defense imposes their will on Vanderbilt. Brian Thomas, Dylan Stewart, Demon Clowney, Desmond Umazulu. I think all of those that rotation set of guys can get it done against Vandy. Can continue to apply pressure and show that why they're one of the better units here in the nation. We'll love this. It's going to be a great test for that defense. Great test for that defense. A quarterback that can get out and run. A quarterback that's going to throw it all around the yard. Brandon Cisse, will you come to play? Jalen Kilgore, will you come to play? You know what I'm saying? Can these guys make plays? We'll see. But yeah, that's about it for me. You've been listening to Jon Dropper Sports. I'm your host, Shanti Stewart, and I'm out.